Hey, what up ladies and gents, it's your favorite Asian robot, and today I stayed inside and played video games. Now, what I'm doing in this video is actually fulfilling a request from a viewer who asked if I could assess their build. Alright, so this dude, owned by Fabian, asked on my Frost Escalation guide, could I do a repeater endgame build if I have one, which is good? And he has one, which is good, but he thinks it can be better. He gave me the details of his build, and I've recreated it here. So let's go through it, and we'll talk about it. So currently his build is a pure offense flawless build using 6 Berserker, 6 Predator, 6 Pulse, 6 Cunning, 6 Molten, 6 Overpower. It's a standard build. Basically, and he uses Iceborne as his survival, alright? So overall, the build is designed to just shoot and dish out high DPS. So let's have a look at how much it's dishing out. This is with level 12 repeaters, yeah? So for the sake of fairness, we are not going to trigger. We will try and collect the Molten Orbs, but we are not going to trigger the specials, the chambers and all that, okay? And we'll take the Lantern out of the equation as well. Alright, because it's not a full damage increase. So if we're doing a test like this, right? So you can see that after it stabilizes, once we get to about 50,000 core damage, right? The DPS is going to stabilize roughly around 1.6. Alright, 1.6k. So this build, you benefit from the Molten, which gives you another 10% attack speed, but you don't really have a lot of survival in this build. Your only source of survival is Iceborne. You also lack the natural interruptive repeaters. That said, the damage is pretty much a standard flawless build, just that it's not using Catalyst, which would normally be the case. Most of these types of flawless builds will use Catalyst instead. So I'm not sure if this would be a direct improvement, but what I would do is I would actually do something like this instead. So I've created a different version of his build. Okay, same stuff, but slightly different take on it. Okay, we're going to use Discipline as the Omnicell instead, and we're going to change the Lantern to Koshai's Bloom as your means of survival. Why? Because the repeaters dish out so much damage that it's really easy to lifesteal it all back by using the Koshais as opposed to Iceborne. The other thing is that Discipline cools down much quicker than Iceborne, allowing for more interruptions. Alright? Also, what I've changed over is that while Cunning and Pulse are here, I've removed Overpower because the repeaters work better with Recycle. Recycle is the new best sell for repeaters, and you don't need to go all the way to Berserker plus 6. Berserker plus 3 gives you 20%. Rather than having an additional 15% from Berserker plus 6, having another Recycle cell takes me up 30% instead. And the Discipline Omnicell also adds to your crit rate and your crit damage, which further helps with Cunning and Pulse. Alright, and the Toughness cell, the 1 Toughness cell, helps to offset Discipline's negative healing a little bit. Alright, and it gives you a little bit of counter to the Berserker. So you actually end up with a slightly larger health pool of 1,100. And let's actually take a look at the damage. Alright, so taking a full look at the damage, alright, we have to get to 50,000 first, because that's the only way that this will be a fair test. You don't have to worry too much about Molten since we're using reuse in this build, but one thing to be aware of is that you would, technically speaking, alright, be losing out on some DPS. Why? Because in Molten, right, you just passively get the 10% attack speed. Alright, we finished out at about 60,000. Sorry, I went a bit overboard. But roughly the DPS is about 1,800. You might wonder, how is this possible, you know, when there's a defensive cell in here? Okay, first of all, the benefit of Overpower, not Overwatch, is not triggering because the training dummy cannot be staggered, okay? So this isn't a fully fair test toward his build. His build technically will work very well in the field if you have a teammate. Because if you have a teammate, the teammate staggers the behemoth, or you interrupt the behemoth or break apart, right? You can trigger Overpower with that. But with Recycle, you don't have to. Just aim at one part and you're dishing out more damage. So the uptime of recycle is much higher than overpower, which is why I very much prefer it for repeater builds. In fact, if you're not using recycle right now, it is probably a bad idea for you because you really should. Next, reuse is so useful to teams right now because you can just buff everybody's attack speed by 20%. This effectively means that the behemoth is going to be killed 20% faster. Molten buffs you only, you see, or whoever picks up the molten orbs, but it does have fire immunity and increased movement speed, which can also be very helpful. So it's really your choice. The thing about this build though is that you can freely swap reuse for molten or catalyst, which means that this one is more flexible. So I don't know if you'll find it better, but this is the build that I would suggest to you that you can use. Okay, so pretty much everything's the same. All I changed was this to the Stride of Thorns. All right, the rest of the build is roughly the same. I've changed over the arms to Malkurion's Grasp as well, and the cells in the repeaters are the Recycle and Tough Cell. If you really don't want the Tough Cell, you can go for even more damage, but I would not recommend doing so. All right, now the key thing is, how is this going to function in the actual field? Well, let's go take it for a spin. How will this function in actual combat? Well, let's go to the hardest possible island and we'll go see. Now, assuming that you play the repeaters well, the repeaters generally allows you to evade a lot of stuff. So you would want to utilize the repeaters to get a bit of distance, not so much that you can't get the empowered reloads, but you get a bit of distance, right? And then you basically just abuse a single part of the behemoth each time. And as you break the parts and get the staggers, you just move on, next part, next part, next part, and you just keep on doing that over and over. That is how this would be used. Again, like I said, you can use it with catalyst if you like, things like that, but reuse is the current hot cell. You don't have to go all the way to +6. That's another thing that I want to highlight. You don't, but in general, you can do so. All right. We should probably take out the Hellion since it is the highest level thing here on the island. Okay, so for those of you that are interested in how this is going to function in actual combat, here's the combat demonstration test. All right, now keep in mind that you are going to need technique to use this because you're going to need skills at least to pull this off. Now, every time you manage to trigger the discipline, right? Now, the playstyle will be the same, by the way, FYI. You will just want to focus one particular part until you manage to get a knockdown. Then you basically trigger reuse, right? And you focus another part. So now we focus the tail, right? And with your increased attack speed, you can get the max benefit of reuse. All right. Get some nice stuff like this going as well. And with the Evade Bond, and of course using Malkurion's, you can trigger staggers like that very fast as well. So that was also one of the purposes behind the original build. Now, as long as you're snapping parts, you will dish out massive damage. So I hope that this helps to show you how powerful this can be. Now we'll kill an Ember Main as well because the Ember Main is 3 levels above. And as we know, all builds should target behemoths 3 levels above for maximum efficiency. If you want to see how efficient this can be, well, here you go. But keep in mind that this is close to a flawless build, all right? So you're going to want to be very, very careful because if you're not at that skill level, please, please, please do not try builds like this because you are going to get ripped, okay? And I would not want you guys to get ripped. Now, you do have to wait for discipline, all right? So while waiting, just dodge attacks and keep firing, okay? And of course, sometimes discipline won't even work. But what can you do? Alright. The thing is, as long as you're focusing one particular part, alright, you will do generally very well. But you do also still want to be cautious because, alright, when your discipline is not ready, alright, you are not going to be able to interrupt. So just be careful of that. But yeah, basically, once you interrupt something even as fast moving as the Ember Main, You break apart, you get your bonus, all right? Now, there's a 10% chance you won't get your bonus, but you'll still get 10% attack speed, which is not too bad. Oh, darn. I wasn't expecting it to break at that point. But, anyway. There you go. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. It's really not difficult to take out even fast-moving creatures, because you do have an interrupt, you do have lifesteal, you do have survival, you got everything you need in this build, alright? So, again, I don't know if you would consider this better. If you prefer your own flawless build, my dear viewer, please go ahead and use your own flawless build. But you can give mine a try as well if you want to. To me, I feel that the uptime of Recycle is far higher and it outweighs anything that you can do with Overpower. But again, the choice is yours entirely, you know. You do what you feel like, alright? Thank you very much for watching this video. And have fun. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This account is not monetized, so if you want to support me, donate via the tip link. Other than that, have fun. I'll catch you on the next one.